All right, everyone, thanks for joining today. This is our admin study group, and today we are looking at service and support applications, specifically case management capabilities, automation, and we're going to do a group exercise on the knowledge side of it to help us all kind of on that front. And so with that, I will get out of the presentation. I need to see who our presenters are. So Adam, are you? Yeah, you are on. All right, cool.
Yep.
Are you ready to present on case management capabilities?
I hope so. I guess we'll see.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing then and let you take over.
All right, perfect. So we're going to take a look at some case management capabilities. So I want to start off with just kind of describing exactly what a case is and take a look at the standard case view versus the service console. So as far as, what is a case? So a case is customer questions, feedback, or issues. And along with that, it could be from internal customers or external customers. Like, for example, internally, it could be like an IT ticket that we would get internally. But let's take a look here at,
oh. We don't see your screen yet if you're sharing.
Okay. Where do I do that at?
Yeah, at the bottom right in the middle of the control panel.
There we go.
Share.
Let's see which one. See that now?
Sorry, I lost my meeting. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so again, cases are customer questions, feedback, issues. It could be from internal customers or external customers. Like I said, I want to get started by looking at the standard case view that we get, and then as well as what we can see in the service console. So with the standard case view, you have just the case object and you get a list view. You're able to go ahead, you can click in the case and kind of see the details or comments on it. Over on the right, you have other details, contact details, so you can go to that. If you need to, if we go back 2 cases now, let's say you're busy and you're working on multiple cases, so we can always open up cases in other tabs, but flipping back and forth like this may not necessarily be the most efficient way to work. So we have the service console available, and let's take a look at that now. So this is what the service console looks like. So it gives you kind of a 360-degree view of different cases that are available to work on, and it gives you some additional information that you're able to take a look at. What's really nice about the console, I think anyway, as far as how more efficient it is, if we wanted to dive into like another case, we can go ahead and select it, and it just opens up another tab right here, so we can just go back and forth quickly between cases. Another neat feature is if you wanted to dive into the contact, you can just select the contact and it will bring it down below, and then now we have all of the contact details at our fingertips to take a look at. So that's kind of how cases are used, or the differences between service console and the standard case view. Let's see here. Next, we have our case settings. These are general support settings that can help you automate case management. Choose kind of different email templates that are used to respond to new cases or when a case is closed. It will default case owners for you if you don't have like an assignment rule in place or a queue set up. and again, with the different notifications that it can automatically send out if when cases are updated with a comment or when they're closed out. And we'll take a look at some of those right now as well. You can get to that under Setup. You can go ahead and select or type in Support. And it will give you some different settings to choose as far as templates, you know, notifications that you can send out when comments are added onto a case. Just these are kind of general settings for you to use for cases. The next thing with the case comments, really all that I was able to kind of see about that is how you're able to, you know, if you just initially put a comment on a case, so if we do this right here in the feed, it will, from right here anyway, you're able to share it and it just comes as an internal comment. As far as getting it or responding to a customer, the only way I've found in Service Console to do that is by actually editing the case up here. Once you enter your comment, you have the ability to send a notification to the contact. And when we do that, it looks like, yeah, it's sending them an email from you to the contact, letting them know that you're working on it. And along with that, you can do that when I think the status has changed. So when we update it to closed, we can send them the resolution, letting them know that their case has been closed out. There's also, I saw some information about comments and how it relates to communities. I'm not sure if that's still something that is necessarily available. I saw some dates on there as far as that it's been retired and it's no longer available as of the summer 19 release. So yeah, from the settings I saw so far, I didn't really see anything that gave me any more information on that part of it.
And what was that? What was that functionality again?
With so case comments.
Case comments. Okay.
So this is, and you know, maybe add something to this, Carla or Kevin, or Carla or Terry. But when we say comments, that's more or less what it is. It's just posting updates to the feed and then replying to the contact, whether it's through email or Twitter if you have that set up.
It's actually its own object that sits underneath cases that allows you to record really just that. It's just comments, interactions
Okay.
related to the case.
Okay. All right. Then the next one we have is our case processes. And this really drives and makes cases efficient to work with. You know, you can personalize the customer's experience based on the questions they ask. The case processes uses record types to be able to determine pick list values or special page layouts based on that record type. You can also put in certain assignment rules and escalation rules so that it goes to the right people and it can be escalated if it's not handled with a specified time frame. I'm not going to get into that so much because I believe that's what Alana is going to look at in the next presentation. But what processes really do is allow agents and users to work the cases more efficiently. So let's go ahead, and hopefully I can do this right. This is kind of a struggle for me. But to create a new process, we'll go ahead and go under Setup. Oh, and actually one thing I want to show right now, if we go ahead and want to create a new case right now, let's see here. So right now we have two record types in there, so it could be for product support or just a customer inquiry. These are our options that we have right now. And they have their own sets of pick lists and different values to choose from. We want a new record type for complaints, customer complaints. And that's what we're going to do right now. So we can type in support processes. And so the first thing we're going to do is create the process. So leave it as complete process. For the statuses now, I'm going to just remove these two. They don't really fit in with this complaint process, but I'm going to leave these the same right now. So once we've gone ahead, we have our support process created. Now we got to create the record type under the case object. So we'll go to our object manager. Select case, and then for record type, we'll go ahead and create new. Just name it complete process. And then we're going to choose our support process. So we'll choose the complaint process we just made. Make sure it's marked as active. We want it viewable for everyone, so I'm going to enable it for all the profiles. And then we'll select next. And then I just want this one layout for the complaint process for all case layouts. So there's more customization in here depending upon what profile different users have for how you want them to view it. Okay, so we've gone ahead and created our record type, and we've tied it back to the complaint process we created. So now we want to actually edit the pick list values that are available now. So for the complaint process, for right now I'm just going to edit the type. So first, for this field, we need to make sure the pick list values I want are available. So I'm going to go up to Fields and Relationships. And then I'm going to find that field. And then I'm going to create a new pick list, or a new value in this pick list field that will match up and make sense with the complaint process that we're using. So I'm going to click New, and let's do product complaint and service complaints. And I want to tie these to our complaint process here. Go ahead and save that. So then now when we go back to our record types, we can select the complaint process. And now if I go down to the type field, I can now edit this pick list that, I'll leave it as
I lost your audio. I don't know if that's just me or
I was just wondering the same thing.
so.
Can't hear you, Adam.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's even connected to audio right now on the meeting. So Adam, if you're able to hear us, are you able to check your audio real quick? I at least see a microphone next to him now that's muted, so that's good. That's progress.
His phone probably disconnected.
I'm going to see if I can just unmute him. Hey, Adam, can you hear us now, or can we hear you? No. All right. Fun times. All right, so I think what we'll do while Adam is working on that, let's go on then to Elena, if you want to talk with us about case management automations. Are you ready?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to stop the sharing. Stop it. Yes. Okay. Flip it to me and then I'll stop and see if that gets. All right, can you take control? Share your screen.
Let's see here. I have a presentation that says case management automation. Do you all see that?
You sure do. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So I will say I have never worked with cases or Service Cloud or anything, so this was exciting. I'll say to learn some of this, but actually a lot of topics I would say in this more broader topic. So please, if anyone that does have experience with it, if I am off topic or don't make sense, or have some other information to provide, please jump in and assist if needed. All right, so case management means organizing customer cases into one place and making sure they go to the right person for the right answer at the right time. And this can all happen utilizing automation that an admin sets up. Salesforce provided this nice little visual for us to look at the 4 high-level steps that can be used when setting up your case management. The first is automating the case management, which means really routing the cases, questions, comments, etc., to the right people, whether that's through a queue or whether that's through actually assigning the cases to a specific person or even escalating. So that's the first one. Once you have set up that basis for the case management, you can add in multiple channels. And what that means is you can now gather those cases from various communication tools and have them funnel into Salesforce. So that could be from phone calls, emails, your website, social media. There's various channels that you can utilize to sync those with Salesforce. The third general setup step is to capture knowledge. As customer engagement provides your team with insights, you can store the useful information in an easy to reach knowledge base so that these helpful articles and whatnot are just a click away for your support representatives or even your customers. And then lastly is that you can utilize artificial intelligence and even bots to streamline more of the tasks and predict some service before it's needed. So anyway, the basis of this is you always start with your case management first, and then you can add on from there. I'm going to be covering number 1 and number 2 today. All right, so our case management tools. The 4 that we're going to cover are queues, assignment rules, escalation rules, and then auto response rules. So a queue allows you to automatically prioritize your support team's workload by creating lists from which specific agents can jump in and solve certain types of cases. Assignment rules allow you to automatically assign the incoming cases to specific agents or also to a specific queue so that the right people are working on those cases. Escalation rules allow you to escalate a case to a different set of representatives or a different team if the case is not solved within a certain time frame. And then auto response is where you can automatically send personalized email responses to customers based on certain criteria to let them know that you are in fact working on the case. So now we're going to demo all 4 of those, and here's our little scenario that we have. We all work for a company that sells and services flooring. We have customer service reps that work off a list of cases received. Some of those reps are specialized in either the case reason, such as installation, or maybe even product, such as carpet versus hardwood flooring. We do not want our cases to sit unresolved for longer than 5 hours. So we want them escalated if they're not resolved within that time frame. And we do want our customers to know that we received their request and are diligently working to resolve. So with that, we will jump into our first step, which is creating a queue. So we have a set of customer service reps that specifically handle installation cases. We're going to create a queue for those reps to work from, followed by an assignment rule that will actually assign cases to that queue. So from our service setup, we're going to search for queue. And we will click new. We'll name it installation. You have these options related to email. So if you want all of the support agents that are a part of this queue to receive an email when a new case arrives, then you actually leave this blank. Otherwise, if you type in an email address, it will notify that specific person or anybody that has access to that email address. If you actually want both, so everybody that's in the queue plus some sort of specific person or distribution list, you could enter an email and check mark send email to members. I'll leave this blank for now. We're then going to add case in our supported objects. And then in our queue members, we're going to identify specifically who should be included. You can, a little drop down there. There we go. You could do roles, you could do public groups, or you could utilize specific users. I'm going to stick with users for now and add these 3 users to that queue. And save. Any questions before I save that queue?
That's good.
We now have our queue called installation, and if I go back out to my service console, I will actually, oh, here we go. I will have a list view for installation. So this is my queue where those cases are going to funnel in. Now we're going to set up a case assignment rule so that cases will actually be assigned to this installation queue. So this time I will search case assignment rules. And I'm going to click new. Something to note about these assignment rules is you can only have 1 active at a time. So just think about that when you're creating these. So I'm going to say that case reason is the name of this assignment rule. I'll go ahead and activate it. I'll now open this rule and I'm going to enter rule entries. This is where we're determining the specific criteria for this assignment. So first I'm going to add my sort order, which I will set as 1. Typically you would probably have more than just 1 entry, but as As cases hit criteria, it's going to be processed in chronological order and be assigned accordingly. So this is our first one, so we set it as number 1. For my criteria, I'm going to say, my drop down, there we go. I'm going to say I want my case reason to equal installation. Aside from case fields, you can also set your criteria logic based on other objects, such as account or contact. Then we're going to identify the user or queue that these should be assigned to. So I'm going to select queue and search for installation. Additionally, you could add an email template that would send an email when the case is assigned if you would like to. The do not reassign owner specifies that if the current owner on a lead or case, in a case, will not be reassigned to the case when it's updated. I don't know if anybody has any better explanation for that. I don't know if I totally understand that. I don't know if there's anyone on the phone that could expound upon that.
Anyone take a guess or a stab at that? You're so interactive and talking.
Okay, well, it's an option there. Like I said, the response or the description is that it specifies that the current owner on the case will not be reassigned when the case is updated. And then step 4, you optionally can select a case team. So here you can specify a predefined case team to add to the case if it matches this criteria. We'll get to case teams towards the end, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that blank for now. But then the last option here is to replace any existing predefined case teams on the case. So if this case already had some sort of predefined case team assigned, check marking this would replace it with whatever case team we've identified in this criteria. So we'll go ahead and save that. And so now, if we received any sort of cases and the reason was installation, based on this assignment rule, it will funnel into our installation queue. Next is escalation rules. So remember, we don't want our cases to sit unresolved for longer than 5 hours, so we can use an escalation rule to push this to a higher level of support. From our setup, we'll now search escalation rules. Same concept, you can actually only have one rule active at a time. I'm going to go ahead and click new here. Let's call this one pushing it to our gold support team. We'll check mark active. Open the rule, and now we're again going to add our criteria. So we'll set our sort order as 1 and then add the criteria. And for this, for this, I'm going to say that I want the case, let's see, what did I want? My case status. Here we go. I'm going to say anything that is new, or maybe it's in the working status. If those are not resolved within 5 hours, I want those escalated. In step 3, we're going to determine the business hours criteria. So this allows you to specify essentially when your support team is available to act upon this case. If you click the ignore radio button, this means that your 5-hour criteria that we're going to put into place is going to be calculating, and it's going to disregard any sort of business hours. The next one, use business hours specified on the case. So if this case has specific business hours, or maybe the client has paid for some sort of service level where you need to respond within their business hours. Utilizing that option is how you could do that. Or you can set business hours by selecting some sort of set business hours that you have, which is default, which might mean that you offer 24/7 service, and so it's always calculating that way.
So if you remember on our very first session, we talked a little bit about business hours and setting those up. This is where that comes into play. When you enable that, it allows you to plug in a business hours lookup field on your case, which is what that second option there is referring to. Or you can do the third option there where it's just selecting it across your entire org. So very good.
Thank you for adding that there. Then we are going to specify how the escalation times are set. The first one is when the case is created. So essentially your escalation clock starts ticking as soon as that case is created. Then next one, when the case is created and disabled after case is first modified. So this one is saying as soon as it's created, my escalation clock is ticking, but if somebody modifies it, then I will stop the clock on whether or not it should be escalated. And the last one is the escalation clock starts ticking when the case is last modified. And so this one more looking at, you don't want your cases sitting there untouched for longer than 5 hours. But in our example, we want it closed and complete within 5 hours. So I'm going to select the first one when the case is created. And we'll save that. Next, we're going to identify our escalation action. So this will determine what happens with the case when it escalates. So we're specifying the time criteria for this rule, which is 5 hours. You also can set 30 minutes as well. There we go. Then we can set who this should be assigned to. It could be a user or it could be a queue. This time we'll go with assigning it to a user, so I'll assign it to myself. You can then select a notification template that will be sent to this user. So we'll identify, we'll say escalated case reassignment. You can also notify other users. So maybe you want to identify, say, a manager, for example. We'll do that. We'll select Courtney Brown. She's our manager. And I'm also going to send her an email using our escalated case notification template. If you checkmark notify case owner, this is going to send a notification to the person that currently owns the case to let them know that the case is being escalated. And then lastly, you could enter up to 5 additional email addresses of other people that should be notified of the escalation. So that completes our escalation rule. The next rule is auto response. So we want our customers who log a case through email to immediately be notified that they have submitted a request and we are working on it. This time we'll search auto response rules. Click new. We'll say this is a welcome to support. Auto response activate. Open it up so that we can create our rule entry. See a theme with a lot of these. We'll go ahead and set our sort order to 1 and then select our criteria. So for this, I'm going to say that my origin is that it started from an email. So somebody emailed our support team and that's what created the case for us. In step 3, you identify the email address that this auto response should come from. So we'll just make up one for now. Or, well, that's the name, my apologies. So we'll put our customer support. And then we enter the email address below. If there is some other email address that you want emails routed to, if your customer were to reply to that email, you could identify it in the reply to address. Then you can select the email template that's utilized for this. We'll go ahead and say, that case was created as our email template. You also can check mark this box if, for instance, your customer emailed you with the case and they copied 2 other people. If you check mark this, then your auto response will also be sent to the additional people they copied. And then lastly, if you had surveys enabled, you could also send a survey. I don't have a legitimate email here, but I think you get the idea there. Any questions on those 4 case management tools?
It's very, very well done. I like that you had a use case scenario there that you walked us through. That was very good.
Thank you. Okay, so our next one is channels. So let me see here. Okay, so as I had mentioned, channels is where you can sync up various communication tools to actually create cases in Salesforce for you. Today we're going to cover email to case and web to case. So email to case, as it sounds, you send an email to some email address and it's actually going to create that case within Salesforce for you. I did read that there are 2 ways to turn emails into cases. One is using a downloadable email agent to keep all email traffic within a network's firewall. And so that's utilized for orgs with specific security policies, or maybe if you're anticipating attachments larger than 25 megabytes. If you do need to set that up, you have to go through Salesforce support. So we are not demoing that version. There is an on-demand email to case concept as well, which is what we'll show today. Then there is web to case that allows the customers to submit a request from your website, creates the case in Salesforce for you, and it looks like you can collect up to 5,000 new cases a day utilizing this feature. Other options include call center, social media, texting, if you have a chat on your website, communities, all tons of different channels that you can utilize to create cases for you. So with that, we'll go ahead and set up an email to case. So this time from our service setup, we're going just to our home page. And there's connect your support email on this kind of dashboard area that we're going to use. And really just follow the steps as it states. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to utilize a Google email address. This is one of my personal ones here, so don't mind that. So we've got our support email address. Click next. You're now going to set default case details for anything that's submitted to this address. So if you have a specific queue you wanted it to go to, set the case origin to email, that makes sense. Maybe if your case priority needed adjusted, or task status. So we'll stick with those by default. Then you need to set up email forwarding for that specific email address. This is going to be different for every email service, whether it's Outlook or Gmail or whatnot. So a Google search just helps you figure that all out. So we'll go ahead and copy this, In my email settings, I'll add a forwarding address. Maybe. All right, well, that demo's not quite working, but essentially you would set up your forwarding address, continue through your prompts to let them know that it's set up, and then you can essentially test by sending, actually when you complete the setup, it will send a test case so that you can see that it's actually working for you. So my apologies for that one. Our last one is web to case. So this time from our menu, we'll search web to case. A check mark that you want to enable web to case. If your organization requires reCAPTCHA verification, you can check mark that as such. We'll default our case origin to web, as these cases are coming from our website. You can select an email template that will default the response to the customer who submitted this. Hide record information. So if this is checked, it will prevent case information from appearing in the email that was sent to customers. And really this is, it sounded like only if by chance the case failed to create, it would include that information. So we'll check mark that so it doesn't confuse our customers. And then optionally, you could adjust the email signature for those emails that are automatically being sent to your customers. So that's a pretty easy one. Go ahead and save. Then we go to our web to case HTML generator. You identify the specific fields that you want to capture on your website and funnel into the case. So we'll keep those as such. This visible and self-service portal, when selected, indicates that a solution is available for external use on your organization's self-service portal. You can then enter the URL that will appear after the customer submits the case. So maybe we have a thank you URL that we want them to be channeled to. Again, optionally include reCAPTCHA if that's required, or uncheck to remove. And then click generate to generate the HTML code. You would copy all of this and send to your web developer to post on your website. Any questions with all of that? My apologies that my email to case did not work appropriately.
All good.
All right, and one last portion for you all. We've got case teams. All right, so case teams, you can create case teams to help groups of people work together to solve cases. Before you create a case team, you need to define your team roles, which you'll see momentarily. And what you can do with case teams is you can predefine them so that users can quickly add people with whom they work with. You can create assignment rules that add predefined teams to cases that match specific criteria. We saw that as one of the options when we were creating our case assignment rule. And you can create email alerts that notify team members when an action happens on the case, such as when a comment is added, which would have been part of those case settings that we saw from Adam earlier. So our last demo for this piece is from our setup. We'll go to case team roles. We need to set our roles before we can actually create our predefined case teams. You see that I have product managers, support representative. Those are already two roles I have listed. we're going to go ahead and add support managers as another role. We click new, support managers. You define the case access they have. So we'll say our support managers are allowed read and write access. Visible in customer portal, if this is checked, then members in the role that are, if you want members in the role visible to customer portal users, then you can go ahead and check mark that box as well. So we'll save that. Now that we have our team roles, we can now define a case team. So we see here I've got predefined case teams in the setup window. Go ahead and click new. We're going to enter the case team names. We'll say this is an escalation team. And then we start adding the team members that should be a part of this. I'll go ahead and add myself, and I'll say that I'm, apologies for my drop downs there. I'm going to say that I am a support representative, and then we've got Courtney here, and she is a support manager, and save. And so now we have a predefined case team. And that officially concludes all of the case management automation.
That was very well done. And you said you've not worked in cases at all?
I have not, no.
That's very nicely done. Very nicely done.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions on any of that? All right. I'm going to go ahead and have you stop sharing if you don't mind. And Adam, I think you said you still had a little bit more you wanted to show. So,
well, yeah, I was just curious, like where, like I guess it cut off when I was talking. Did it? Because at that time I was building the support process, and I don't recall.
I think you were getting ready to demo it, I believe.
I think you're right, yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. I don't necessarily. Did you guys, were you guys still able to see my screen?
Yeah, go ahead and share it. We do not see it yet.
Let's see here. There we go. Where's it at?
It's coming.
Is it popped up now?
Yep. Yeah, we see support settings.
Okay. So I'm not going to go back through the whole process again, because you guys were still able to see it even though I was silent, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But basically what that process allowed me to do was to, when we create that new case, we can now, have a new process in place, so it makes it more efficient for our users. They can go ahead and choose that when they're creating the new case, and then you can edit all these pick lists to be specific to that record type. And then one of the record type, or one of the pick lists we changed was for the type, and you could choose either product complaint or service complaint. That's pretty much all, I guess, I had. So sorry about that.
No worries. Hit cancel there and just go to an existing case for me.
Okay.
So just a couple things to make note of. Cases, they often will talk about a feed view versus a regular page layout, and this is really kind of what this looks like. It's in a console, which is obviously different than a standard, but you'll notice how you have a feed tab and a detail tab. A lot of the activities there are all kind of front and center with that feed view.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's something just to be aware of, that terminology. If you see something where they start talking about a feed page layout, that's what that does, is it gives us that feed tab versus the detail tab, and the detail tab. Almost all of your documentation then is handled. It's really kind of like chatter. I mean, it really is. It's just a chatter type feed that is kind of highlighted, or it's front and center when you go to that sort of a view. The other thing that I wanted to mention, we talked about channels and the various different channels. Salesforce will call that omni-channel, so be aware of that term, omni-channel. And you'll see on Adam's screen there at the very bottom of his console, he's got an omni-channel item there. Yours looks exactly like mine, because it's not set up, but that would give you that ability to have case information come in from your different types of channels. So if it's social media, if it's websites, depending on how you have this configured, but you can also, with omnichannel, have it route to experts in those different channels. So if you've got people who are very good at handling the online type chatting support, whether that's coming from Facebook, Twitter, or whatever the option might be, then you can have those routing rules in place for that omni-channel side of things as well. So good terminology just to be aware of. You don't have to be an expert in it, but if you see some of these terms come up in questions, you at least are somewhat aware of them. Let's see, I had one other that I wanted to mention. What was it? Soft phones, CTI. So if you have phone integration in with your case management stuff, you will also see down there next to omni-channel, you'll see whatever your phone tool is. You'll have an icon there that will open that up. It'll show and display a soft phone for you. And that will be how you would receive your calls. So instead of picking up your desk phone or a headset, you're letting the computer actually be that phone environment for you. And that's a soft phone. It can also then, if it recognizes the caller's phone number, it will take you straight to that caller to help speed handling those phone calls. So I think they call that screen pops, or does that sound right, Carla?
Yep, I think that's right. Yep, okay. It'll take you to that contact record.
Take you directly to the contact record.
Mm-hmm.
I think those were the things that I wanted to mention. Is there any other pieces or functionality here, Carla, that you can think of that?
No, I don't think so. I think I liked what you said, just being aware of like the feed view, omni-channel, some of those buzzwords that you might get in a question, and at least knowing what they are will help you eliminate answers. It doesn't make sense. I mean, honestly, just hearing about it and knowing it's an actual thing is half the battle.
Yeah. Sometimes this test taking is an art.
Yes, yes,
it is. It is a knowledge thing. What answers can you eliminate?
Yep.
And be a better guesser. I did not say that out loud.
No, but you can't. But you can't know it all. I mean, honestly, it's hard to know it all. So.
Yeah. No, it is reality. So we've got like 4 minutes left, and we were going to talk about knowledge. We're not going to get knowledge in very deep here today. And so I think what I'll do is just hold that over for next week. I think it's going to be one of those topics where it's really more, again, one of those that we just have to understand the concept more than anything. So knowing what its capabilities are, I think, will be helpful, and we can cover that pretty quick next week. So let me come back to sharing. So I'm going to push this this over to the 23rd, and we'll cover that there. And Gina, I'm going to just toss my name out there along with it. I know you've started it, and we'll just kind of tag team that together next week if that sounds all right to you.
Yep, that'll work. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. And then we have Salesforce community applications, specifically as it relates to service and support. And I don't think Jackie's on our call today, so I will make sure I reach out to her. And then we get into the 2 activity management. So both Kevins are up next week with activity management and then chatter.
Yay for Kevins.
Yay for Kevins. Kevin squared. All right. Any questions on that for next week? All right. Hearing none. Any questions from any of the topics today? I feel really comfortable asking that because none of you ask questions. So I'm pretty safe from being put on the spot, I think. So very good. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day, and we will talk again next week.
Thanks, Terry.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye,
Thanks,
guys.
guys. Bye.